Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Logan Robinson, and I am a composition major at Sam Houston State University. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my approaches to composition using one of my recent pieces that I call Housework. So without further ado, let us begin. In this presentation, we will be focusing on housework. What is housework, you say? I thought you'd never ask. Housework is a programmatic piece written for Woodwind Quintet in 2019. We will be looking at its inspirations, the programmatic influences, and an analysis of the musical elements. Let us begin by looking at the background to see what inspired me to write Housework. To sum up, I was mainly inspired by these three things: Ludo music, a desire to explore more contrapuntal ideas, and an inclination to more effectively use motive. Now, much of my musical inspiration comes when presented with more music. The genre that I find myself inspired by often would be Ludo music. Ludo, or video game music, shaped my musical taste growing up. The initial piece that inspired me came from a reveal trailer back in February of 2019 with the newest addition to my favorite game series from Nintendo, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Part of the reason that this kind of music is so identifiable and memorable is due to the programmatic nature of this genre. Once the title card for this game dropped in the reveal trailer, my ears were treated to a very cutesy rendition of the main theme from The Legend of Zelda, written for a woodwind quintet. After hearing the interplay of each instrument, I knew I had to try my hand in writing for that particular ensemble. Other inspirations came from wanting to develop better contrapuntal writing skills in my compositions. Writing for a woodwind quintet ensemble in particular was a wonderful next step for me as a composer. Before I began this project, I had not written for more than 4 instruments outside of when I was required to for classes like orchestration. This is something I knew I was somewhat lacking in, since I easily became overwhelmed by having a large amount of instruments to write for, so adding just one instrument seemed to be a good step forward for me. Another skill that I wanted to further develop was being able to use a small motive and stretch it over a long period of time without feeling like I was repeating myself ad nauseum. If I stayed on one musical idea for too long, I thought that the audience might get bored, so I wanted to challenge myself to get the most out of a small idea and expand on it in order to maintain interest. Having taken an interest into Ludo music, I am heavily drawn to programmatic music. But what is programmatic music? Program music can be defined as music with an idea or setting behind it, or a certain character to show. One example of this would be Hector Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. This piece is about an artist being haunted by a vision of a perfect woman. He initially dreams of her and is taken through a series of events surrounding this woman, ending in a nightmare about her. In the final movement, he poisons himself out of grief because he believes that she has rejected his love. Now the story of my piece, Housework, is not nearly as dramatic as that example. The story is based on my own experiences with cleaning the houses I've lived in. It is a lighthearted demonstration of what cleaning is like when I am invested in getting the job done. Personally, I don't like cleaning, but every time I start cleaning I get this insane drive to do anything and everything to make the house look and feel as nice as possible. If I am cleaning something in one room, I end up looking at the other rooms and thinking to myself, well, I might as well clean those other ones too. Then, next thing I know, I'm going through the entire house cleaning everything I can possibly find. And it is exhausting. But by the time it's all done, it's worth it. Somehow it'll all be magically undone by tomorrow, but for the next few hours, it's worth it. Now that we've covered the background, let's start looking at the music content itself. Please note that for the purposes of this presentation, we will be looking at a transposed score, with the clarinet and the horn sounding a major second and a perfect fifth lower than written, respectively. Housework can be divided into 3 sections that make up the idea of starting orderly, becoming chaotic, and gaining the determination to finish. For our purposes, we will be referring to these sections as diligence, chaos, and determination, followed by a quick coda that suggests the house is finally clean. For now. The form of housework is as follows. Diligence starts with a clear sense of tonal stability that moves up by step in the key areas until it stumbles into the second section, chaos. Chaos is where that sense of stability is lost, And finishing off the piece is determination, where the music regains its tonal stability and is determined to finish cleaning. Now let's look at how the melody and ostinato are used in Housework. The melody, A, is created from the spinning out of a single motive, little a. This A melody can be divided into three parts, which will be referred to as A prime, and A double prime. Here is how the A melody is constructed. Little a is a short long step up motive, and it is what the other 2/3 of the melody are built from. A prime is an inversion, an extended version of the step up short long motive, now becoming the short 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 long. And finally, the A double prime takes the A prime shape and turns it into an arpeggio. The first two variations in measures 7 through 9 take the basic short-long A motive and moves up a leap instead of a step, while the A prime motive is inverted again and moves in an upward scale. The A prime motive, short 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 long, becomes short short long in measure 50. The arpeggio in the A double prime motive is extended in measures 36 to 37, and another variation of the A prime motive at measures 105 to 106 take the previous stepwise motion and moves by neighbor tone and arpeggiates. Now the bassoon ostinato acts as an accompanimental figure that propels the entire piece forward. There is a do-re figure that provides tonal stability, with do acting as the tonic and re eventually becoming the new do. More about that in the pitch materials. To keep from being overly repetitious, the bassoon will occasionally perform octave leaps where one would not expect. In addition to this, the rhythm will often diminute and develop into a more active bass line. And now, let's look at the pitch materials of Housework. We begin the first section, Diligence, with a somewhat stable tonal center on C. The do-re ostinato in the bassoon establishes do as the tonal center. The re from the first section then becomes the new do, starting in measure 20 in D major. The reoccurring re of beats 3 and 4 in the opening measures provide a smoother transition into the new key by common tone. These small key changes provide a sense of moving forward, as it shows that some tasks are getting done, and it maintains the interest of the listener. We finish off this section by moving up another major second, going into E major at measure 34, and then entering the less tonal section, Chaos. But before we get into the Chaos section, I would like to show that at the end of the E major section, measures 48 to 50, give the appearance of a prolonged dominant, setting the listener up for a resolution in E major, as indicated by the sol la ti in the bassoon. The cadence somewhat fulfills our expectations, but we are still moving forward because of the D naturals. From measure mark 51 to 54, the music seems to move into E mixolydian and spirals out of control in the following measures. This, combined with the increased tempo, represents jumping from one cleaning task to another without really finishing either of them. The next section, Chaos, starkly contrasts to the previous one, Diligence. The tempo has increased and there is a lack of tonal stability, with harmonies now having triads with dissonant intervals. In measures 68 to 69, there's a feeling of E tonality returning in the forms of E pentatonic major, as shown by the unison quarter notes, and E minor from the G naturals in the flute and clarinet voices. In addition, the do sol in the bassoon helps establish that we are in E. Once we hit measure 91, the piece comes to a highly chromatic cluster chord. All is silent for approximately 10 seconds. Afterwards, the bassoon ostinato starts to come back, along with small interjections by the other instruments. With a hint of recapitulation, the final section determination returns to a stable tonal center on C. This is made clearer by the bassoon ostinato returning in a developed form, and in addition the horn recites the three motives of the melody. Starting at measure 107, the piece quickly retraces the steps of diligence by going back through the C, D, and E major modes, with an added 2 measures of D flat major. Then, starting in measure 112, each instrument comes back in with repeated figures of the A double prime motive from the melody until the climax. At the end of the piece, there is a familiar progression that led to the highly chromatic cluster chord from the end of Chaos. However, this time we end on a more resolved cadence thanks to the sol to do motion in the bassoon, providing the stabilizing elements of a traditional perfect authentic cadence. So now that you've seen the piece inside and out, let's give the piece a listen. And once again, we will be looking at the transposed score. Housework has been an incredibly fun learning experience for me as a composer. It helped me understand the music I've listened to as a kid. I got to write for a bigger ensemble and to challenge myself to get the most out of one small idea. Thank you to all my professors, and especially thank you to Dr. Kincher for helping me put this presentation together, and to Dr. Crabtree for showing me how to use electronic equipment. This was a very last-minute decision to replace my recital, and without y'all's help, this would have been near impossible. So thank you guys, I am very blessed to have you both as professors. And on that note, it is time for me to take a nap, because this has been a long project. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful day.